right now is going to go over today, as this is going to be a part 2 of the clip that I had yesterday about, stagnation is not waiting on God, it's disobedience. And so we got to understand the first things about this, as this is going to be part of my Facebook, and it's going to be part of my final teaching for about a month or so, as I've got to step away, have some time alone with the Lord, as I need some things done. Now, like I said, at the end, you can pray for me and pray for healing from head to toe, as I'm going to need it. Everyone, the more prayers for my health to be healed from top to bottom, head to toe, the better off. Not going to say what it is that's got me, but let's just say it's something that will put me in my grave faster if God doesn't deal with it. So let's go ahead and go over and recap yesterday. Now, yesterday we talked about stagnation, goofing off, waiting on God to tell you what to do when you're caught in a situation where you know that you need God to make changes in your life. You just get born again, those kinds of things, and you need immediate change, but it seems like it takes forever. What can be immediate change needed could take 20 or 30 years. But the problem is, you got to find out what the cause of that is. And we found out one of them is are you a baby in Christ? Is God allowing things to happen? First off, how long you been into Christ? See, a lot of times when we first get born again, for God to show His love, we're going from sin to righteousness in Christ. Especially if you're one that's in the Pentecostal churches and they have strong faith in Christ, you'll notice that a lot of things you ask for in the beginning, God will give to you. Of course, if they line up, like if the minute you get born again, your spouse walks away, and leaves. And then you're going through hell alone, where it's just you and the church and God. That's it. Your family's abandoned you. Your job is giving you problems. All of those things. That's not of God. But the problem is you don't want to give up and get a divorce because of that. You'd rather save the family because more people to this day would rather take the easy way out and just get a divorce than to go ahead and try to let God mend your family back together. That kind of thing. And so that's one of the first things I'm going to mention is your faith in God. Are you growing? Now, a lot of times as a baby in Christ, we'll get answers to our prayers as we put them into God. Maybe it takes a few months, 6 months, maybe a year at the most, but God will answer them pretty quickly. But when we start going from being milk to meat, it seems like the same way God answers things, it's not the same. And we're waiting around for years to get God to answer things the way that He did before, when that's not His intention. What His intention is to use us to be vessels. It's no longer just do things for us to show His love and all that. I mean, He could do things through us to be a living testimony in our growth. But when it comes to that point that you're going from milk to meat, but you should be teachers by now, but you're not. You're still needing to be taught. That is what is telling you you're still milk. Then you need to go from milk to meat in Christ, an adult in Christ. An adult in Christ does not sit around and wait on God to tell you what to do. They start initiating, going to where you need to go. Start reading the Bible, starts fasting, starts doing all those kinds of things that you already know you need to do. So that is what it is. Waiting on God's timing could be waiting on the direction, waiting for you to become an adult in Christ, so that He can work, not just do things for you, but to do things in you and through you. Greater is he that's in me than he that's in the world. 1 John 4:4. So that is a lot of times where that stagnation comes in because of what God is trying to move you from and move to is one of them. And that is, and if you sit here and you remain stagnant, waiting on God to do something at that point, then that is not waiting on God, that is disobedience, because God's trying to move you. Otherwise, why would he let so much crap happen to you? Think about that. He's not just going to let a lot of things happen unless it's to come out with something better. Now another one is okay, let's say for example, and then the biggest thing is developing faith. How long does it take for your faith to form up? That's another one right there. And if you do not have faith, it's impossible to please God. That's why it says he that comes must believe that God exists and is a rewarder of those that diligently seek him. That's one of them right there. So that could be another one that's causing delay, is the fact that you may not believe. Two, your faith is not formed up. You're focusing on what has been seen instead of what could be yet to come. And that's what it is. So let me give an example. You find out you got cancer. Okay? You're either going to have to go through radiation treatments and things like that, and that does not have a very good successful rate. You're depressed. Now you got to go tell people you may not be here much longer. Those kinds of things. Same thing, you find out you have a sexually transmitted disease that's incurable. You got to go tell people that you may not be here much longer. That is already a stress and a trauma within itself. Holding on to those things. Bitterness that comes from that. And if it's something you feel like you did, you're going to be angry at yourself and holding on to what you did, feeling guilt of yourself. That could be another one right there. So if that is the case, then a lot of the problems is not so much waiting on God, God's waiting on you to forgive yourself. But another one is a lot of times we don't know what to do, especially when all you're getting from that bad doctor report is nothing but bad news after bad news after bad news after bad news. And they're sitting here trying to make you feel good, make you feel comfortable, keep giving you the bad news after bad news after bad news. Now, like I said, doctors have to do that. That's part of their profession. And so you got to understand that. And so as this goes along, now all of a sudden it's either convicted in your heart or someone comes to you out of the blue and says, you know what? God can help that. Now, if you're not, like they say, if you're like 75, 80 years old and you've lived a full life and you get diagnosed with these things, then it'd be better just to go on home, than to try to. But I mean, that's your choice. Healing and deliverance is your choice. But you got to remember too, we went over yesterday about deliverance. Deliverance could also hold you back from receiving breakthroughs and change. You need to have a deliverance. If you do not have one, these demons are, every time that you get close to a breakthrough, the demons are going to stop up and block every time, and that gets so frustrating. You could go through 15 or 20 times waiting on a change that you have long needed, and every time you get to that point, it seems like all of a sudden it doesn't happen. And it's because a demon had blocked your prayers. And then you feel like you got to do it all over. You get mad, you get bitter, you start losing faith, you start losing confidence in God. That is the whole point. So we went over yesterday that you may need to have a deliverance done to get these mountains moved out of the way so that you can have a clear communication and reception from God, and not have the demons keep on, or yourself keep blocking your prayers and needs from being manifested and answered. And so that's one of them that happens. So the other thing I'm going to tell you about is, let's get back to this bad doctor report. Okay, you get a bad doctor report. You know, all you get is bad news after bad news. No one can help you. We got to try treatments, but it's not guaranteed success. Now, let's say you're not more than 40 or 50 years old, for example. You know, for example. And this happens. One thing is God can help you. Really? Okay. So now what we're going to do is pause this for a minute, and then we're going to come back. Excuse me. And then go from there. But that could be one of them right there. Let's see. How do you pause this thing? It's my first time doing lives like this.